Alright, so summer's about done, so it's starting to get dark out somewhat early. Brought this thing into the garage. This is my setup for the temporary fuel filter, which is annoyingly tall, but that's what I had to do. Got the hard line hooked up. I've got it basically attached 90 degrees from where it's supposed to be from the carburetor, which allows me to hook this rubber monstrosity up to it and attach that to the original fuel tank. And what I've got here is like a 2x8 that broke down the middle, and it just so happened to be about the perfect width and the perfect length, so I didn't have to cut it. And I've just got a bolt here holding it onto the side of the engine block into one of the bolts for this fuel tank mount. Up here I just stuck what I think is a welding rod right through, just drilled a hole through the end of the board and shoved it through there, and I've got the tank straps upside down holding it onto those. And then, because that was kind of cattywampus and floppy, in order to snug it up somewhat, I just drilled 2 interior screws at 45-degree angles on either side, and then ran copper thread around and over and around and over, tied it off, and then I just stuck a piece of wood in between the 2 threads and cinched that up to make it stable enough, just so that it doesn't develop some sort of weird wobbling oscillation in the event that this thing ever starts. I just drug it into the garage so I could get the muffler off, which I managed to do without too much trouble. And there it is. I basically just squeezed on this with these big old pliers and a C-clamp just to try and break some of the rust off of the threads up here. And then I cranked on it, tried to turn it, and just ripped the damn thing off flush with the block. So then I went to plan B, which I was planning on having to do anyway, and took a hacksaw blade, this is a 24 TPI, and just cut through it until it felt like I was hitting the cast iron block, which was considerably harder. Like, I don't even think I could get it to cut with this hacksaw blade. This is some hard steel. And I can just barely feel where I was cutting into the threads. It did not want to go, which is actually kind of convenient. And then I just took a punch and just beat on the edge of what was remaining of the pipe, which only happened to be about that thick, and until I cracked the seam where I was cutting, and then it just did a little curly-cue, and then I grabbed it with the pliers and crushed one in and pulled it right on out. And there's a lot of crud in there. A lot of crud in there. A lot of crud. So, yeah, we're going to clean that up. But I'm trying to work out an air cleaner for it. I think I found a couple of replacements that'll work. At the moment, I've just got painter's tape on it to sort of make it a sort of gasket. Jesus. Just so I don't get crap in the engine while I'm working on it. And I'll just bust this stuff out before I put the air cleaner on it. But that'll work temporarily as a gasket, you know, just for the bullshit I'm doing. But anyway, turns out this is the oil foam type. This was not the oil bath type. And so this was the inside of the air cleaner. And this is 2.5 internal diameter. And I believe the original foam filter was about 5 inches, 4.5, 5 inches, something like that. Probably fit inside of that recess. You can see it's got this sort of lip right here, which is about 4.5, and the height is about 2.5. I think actually it's 2 3/4. So my plan is to find a modern air filter that's approximately those dimensions. So nominally, the kind of filter I need to find is going to replace this here in the middle, and it's going to have an internal diameter of 2.5, an external diameter of about 4.25, maybe 4.5, and a height of about 3. And I think the Wix 42362 is going to work. I think I can get one of those for like $11 off Amazon. And that's 3 inches tall, 2.5 inches internal diameter, and I think it's like 4.25 in diameter. It's like the only thing that's the right size. And I think it even has rubber on both ends, so I can have a gasket. It's definitely plastic or rubber on both ends. I think I can make either work. I can always just put some RTV on it if it ends up being plastic. So here's my ad hoc temporary air filter setup. Just took the internal mesh from the original foam filter, and I just gave that one wrap a shop towel and folded it over, squished these two ends on it, and then just tore off the excess. And we're going to slap that on here, right over the top of the plate. Put the cover back on, and that should be better than nothing. Alright, just use compressed air. Cleaned up the threads with a brass brush. Blew all the gunk out of the exhaust port. And then I waited until I was on the exhaust stroke. Then I hooked up the compressed air to the spark plug hole and blew anything I could out of the cylinder. Out with the old, in with the new. Okie dokie. So this morning I'm going to add about a pint of ethanol-free gas to the original fuel tank. Run it through my bastardized filter system and see if it starts leaking out the carburetor. And if it doesn't, I'm going to let it sit over the day, and then I'll come back and see if it's leaking out the carburetor anyway. Alright, fuel filter's filled up. Let's see. Alright. Primer bulb is firm. Just totally primed. Don't know if the carburetor's filling. No idea if that needle and seat is seized or not. We'll just let that sit. Since the gasket disintegrated, I've just once again jammed a shop towel under there and snugged that down, just to sort of act kind of like a gasket. Really just an air seal to keep this from all evaporating in the summer heat. So it looks like fuel is getting to the carburetor, and it's leaking around the float bowl gasket, but it's only a minor leak, so not worried about it. All this wetness you see right here isn't all gasoline. The gasoline was pretty much only here on the front. I tried to run it, couldn't get it to run, and even with the new spark plug and everything. So I sprayed a bunch of water behind here to clean all the crap off the top of the ignition coil. Then I tried spinning it with the drill to see if it would work, and couldn't confirm ignition even doing that and holding this next to the spark plug. Either the carburetor's fucked up or it's not getting spark. Well, I just remembered that I bought one of these spark testers for just such an occasion, and hadn't had a chance to use it, and went and fished that out, and we're gonna see if this little light bulb lights up, because if it does, then we know we've got spark to coil. So if we've got spark to coil, then it's probably an air fuel ratio problem, which would be much better. Alright, well, I've got a drill with the wrong size socket hooked up to the crank bolt. Got this sitting on the air cleaner, and as you can see, oh! There is spark. There's spark. It's just very weak. Well, shit. Was not doing that for me before. To me, that still says that it's probably something with the ignition coil, or if I'm lucky, it's just that this contact right here is really, really shitty. So I'm going to try cleaning that up some more first. And because that was very inconsistent. And I feel like if the coil was bad, it would be consistently bad. Whereas if, the electrical connection was bad, it would do something like that. So we're going to try cleaning that up first, but we'll probably end up having to take this flywheel off, which I'm dreading having to do, as I don't think I have a gear puller the right size. I think the only fitting I have for my slide hammer is that one there, which is way too damn big of a bolt hole, and now I'm going to have to buy a puller just to pull that off, to then just have to buy a coil to then just find out that it's not the coil. Alright, so I took this 3/16 round file I had that ended up being the exact perfect size for this, and I just fouled the shit out of that. So we're gonna hook it back up to this and then test on it again. Let's see if this gets any brighter. Nope, don't look like it, so that's not the problem. Fuck. Actually, this thing is it's more consistent now. I think we have spark. I don't know if it's enough spark to gap. I don't know how bright this is supposed to get. I gotta go look that up. But it may just be air fuel mixture. It could also be compression related. So I've got a head gasket on the way. So I am gonna pull the head just to make sure that the valves work and all that stuff before I start chasing anything else. And I also have the carb rebuild kit, so I'm gonna rebuild the carb when I do that. Alright, so I ordered some 16th inch cork gasket material, and that just came in. Had to get it with a bunch of other stuff, but I'm sure I'll find a use for that. And I've just cut out a replacement gasket, and I'm sure it's too big and too rough and whatever the hell, but we're just gonna stick everything back together, put some gas in it, and see if it leaks like a sieve. Well, I mean, it's supposed to leak like a sieve because it's literally a sieve. It's just only supposed to leak out of that end. But we'll see if it leaks at all the wrong places. And this is kind of a snug fit, which is probably good. Don't know how the glass bowl is going to like going in there with all this extra material on the lip. Alright, there we are. That actually fit really well. So glass bowl goes on. Find a spot where it seems to like it and give it a little press. Don't press it too hard because you might break it. And I'll need 2 hands to put this on, so stand by. Alright, so to get that clamp back on, you just slide it straight on from one end and then just push each side into their little recess. Like so. Center it up and tighten the screw. There we go. Don't know how much torque I'm supposed to put on there, but that's snug, so we're going to run with that. Alright, I've got the original fuel tank mounted in its original configuration, and I have the carb off again, so we're gonna see if this valve works and if it spills fuel everywhere. Well, it appears to be working. Looks like gasoline to me. Nice, nasty, yellow gasoline. Let's see if it starts spraying out over here. Oh, there it goes. Righty tighty, lefty loosey. Well, now that I got gas everywhere, we know that works. Oh, damn, that like filled up with sediment immediately. Shit. Oh, great. Anywho, we're just going to forget that I just did that. And I'm going to start disassembling this carburetor because I want to see if there's actually fuel in there. Because I have a feeling that the needle in the seat was stuck. And there's probably no fuel in the bowl. Alright, as you can see, there is some gas in the bowl. And if you look over here at the float, the needle is free down in there. It's moving up and down. Doesn't seem like it because I'm holding it at an angle, but yeah, needle's free. So it is letting fuel into the bowl. I'm assuming this valve down here is the valve for the jet. And for whatever reason, we're not getting fuel coming out of the jet, out of these ports. That's why we're not running, because when I was turning that thing over, I never smelled gas. Well, not in any significant amount. So I have a feeling that something's just fucky with the carburetor, and probably just needs a new gasket, a whole rebuild. I think that kit over there has all new gaskets, new jet, new everything. So we'll do that and see if that makes a difference. Alright, let's tear into this carburetor and just see how fucked it actually is. And first step's going to be dumping out this carburetor kit, which I probably should have cut before I started filming so I could dump it out for you. Alright, so in this kit we have... Oh, it's in another bag. Well, we have a gasket. We have 2 bowl gaskets. I guess they figured we'd fuck one of them up, or they're slightly different. Got a new jet. Got a new shutoff valve for the jet. Ooh, another thing for that. I mean, bunch of stuff. New needles. So yeah, we should be able to make the most of that. Well, the seat wanted to be non-compliant, and it took all of the liquid wrench, a little bit of beer, and this big fucking screwdriver, but you're gonna have to believe me, she's coming now. Okay, that seat really, really did not want to come out. I even had to, re-square up the screwdriver, and she's right munged. Alright, well there's the carb totally disassembled. And here's all the parts that I have replacements for. It came with a spare set of gaskets there and a different type of needle for a different type of carb. But it looks like that gasket was shot. That one was practically still usable. I was missing the spring for the needle, which I noticed after I had it apart last time. And it's got all of these O-rings and crush washers and little tiny gasket donuts that you'll notice I don't have any of those over here, so I've got no fucking idea what those go to. I'm assuming this O-ring goes to the jet, but other than that, I have no idea what any of those are for, so I'm going to have to get to Googling so I can figure out where to put those. But yeah. There she is, totally stripped. This needle valve is just right fucked up. You see that lip? Hot damn, that is a significant lip. And it's bent. So that's one of the problems. That and that gasket, and the fact that there's no spring on the needle. I'm gonna say someone was in here before and they forgot a lot of parts. That's just my gut speaking. Alright, that new seat down in there fought damn near as much going in. As you can see, she is mostly level. Level enough for me to give a shit. So we're just going to put these on and hope that those gaskets are in the right place, because I can't find anyone online telling me where the fuck to put these goddamn gaskets, so I'm just going to assume they go there, and I'm going to assume this is for this other needle over here, because it does not have a plasticized tip, and I'm going to assume this is just a spare for that, and we're just going to run with it, and if it doesn't work, I'll just buy a new fucking carburetor for $20. Alright, carb's back together. These are all the spare new parts that I had. This idle mixture screw did not want to go in, and I was not about to force it, so I just put in the old one and put on the new spring, and we're gonna leave it like that. This guy went in no problem. This gasket seems like it's way too loose up here at the front, but we're gonna pretend that we didn't notice that. Yeah, we'll see if that makes a difference. Probably won't. Alright, got the carb on. Fuel flowing. There's definitely fuel in the bowl because it's leaking out all around this gasket, because I'm assuming the carburetor's just warped, but it's good. It's better than there being no fuel in it, so guess I'm just gonna crank on it and see what happens. I'm not gonna put the air cleaner on. Oh wow, yeah, there's a lot of gas leaking off of that. I'm not going to put the air cleaner on because the air cleaner is like flaking off a bunch of garbage. It's probably dirtier, the stuff coming out of the inside of the air cleaner, than just sucking up all of this sawdust and metal shavings off the floor. not have the proper footwear for this on. Being no footwear. About to take my fucking toe off. Alright, so I've probably spent half an hour or 40 minutes trying to get this fucking thing to run. And it's so close. It wants to try, but something's not right. And I'm pretty confident it's the fact that this carburetor is leaking like a fucking sieve out of every single fucking crack around this float bowl gasket. Because for whatever fucking reason, the thing does not seal worth a fucking shit at all. But anyway, I'm going to keep at it. I'm going to set this thing down over there on the stool and then crank on it just so that you can listen to what it's doing. I currently have it at 1 turn out on the idle, and I think I still have it at 1.5 out on the high idle. Have the throttle at bottomed out, and I just don't think she's getting spray out of the jet. I think it's just sucking vaporized gasoline up through the fact that I have the choke at essentially closed, and that's all she's running on. She just runs for like 3, 4, 5 puffs and then gives up. So it's all fuel air related. It's getting spark. So I need 2 hands to do this. So let me show you. See, that's what it's doing. It's going under its own power. Just it gives up. It starts off good, and then the air fuel mixture gets something. I don't know. It gets too rich. I'm assuming it gets too lean, and she just gives up. It seems like it has to leak enough gasoline into the bottom of the carb for it to be able to suck it up and vaporize it to actually run the thing. Oh, god damn it. Well, it looks like I gotta buy a carburetor. Great. Alright, well, I tested compression, and it was only showing 50 psi, but that's also because the compression tester is fucked up, and for whatever reason, it's not holding pressure. So I can only see the pressure on the first stroke, and it's showing 50 on the first stroke, which to me is pretty good. Considering that a compression tester, it requires, multiple strokes, like, a dozen or more in order to build full pressure to tell you the actual PSI of the compression stroke, and because for whatever reason the valve on the compression tester was just letting all the pressure back into the cylinder, I could only test it on the PSI for 1 stroke, which was like 45 or 50, which as far as I'm concerned is pretty good. It cheeched a bit, coughed some, so it's got to have some amount of compression. But I can't get her to start on starting fluid, so I'm not really certain what the problem is. We'll keep tinkering. Alright, different night, different beer. We've got the carb back apart, and I'm doing a couple of things. First off, I left the O-ring off on the bottom of the high idle screw, so we've put that back in. That's underneath this brass washer there. That's probably why that was leaking. I went around and I watched a bunch of people on YouTube complaining about this carburetor. So now I know that I need to back this off and reseat this emulsion tube in there several times in order to get this mating surface here on the front to conform to the inside of the carburetor. Also, these things have a tendency to warp. So after 69 years, who'd have thunk it warped? So quick and dirty fix for that is to double up on the float bowl gasket. So luckily I had a second one, and looking at the old gasket, as you can see, it doesn't have any holes in it. It's just got the one there for the needle and the seat, and both of these have a bunch of holes in them. So we're gonna do the right thing, and we're just gonna double up and make sure there's no holes, and maybe that'll fix the problem. Also, as you saw, the float does sit a little high, so I'm going to bend down this tab just a little bit to make it sit level, just to be on the safe side. Although it was sitting low in the bowl, so that wouldn't have contributed to the problem we were seeing, but we'll be safe. Also, I managed to break a crush washer in half, so that shows you how old and rusty this piece of shit is. I don't know how you break a crush washer, but I did it. Just my fucking sick guns. That's how. So we're going to get back to this, and hopefully when I put it back together, it's not going to leak like a sieve, and if it does, I'm just going to buy a new carburetor and call it a day. Alright, both gaskets are on. As you can see, the float is sitting perfectly level now. So I'm going to install the emulsion tube and the high idle mixture screw. And if you haven't noticed, I don't know what any of this shit is called, and I'm just figuring it out as I go along. So if you're down there in the comments calling me a retard, good on you. That's what you're supposed to do, because I am. Also, I never cleaned this mung out of the bottom of it, mostly because it's caked on there really hard and no amount of gasoline, brake clean, or carb cleaner will get it off. But I'm making an attempt to scrape it off, and if it doesn't look like it's going to be forthcoming, we're going to ignore it again. Alright, the carb's all back together. This feels much more snug down here on the bottom. I probably got another quarter to half turn out of that emulsion tube, which is really scary doing, just because you're screwing brass into like some sort of weird proto-aluminum. And it just feels like everything's going to break, but you just keep going. This gasket feels a lot tighter. It doesn't really look too much tighter now when I'm looking at it, but I think that's just it ballooning out along the edges. But it feels better, and that makes me feel better, so that's all we got to worry about. And I found another lock washer for that, and we're going to slap this back on and see if we can get some cheechage. Alright. Try and fucking open this damn thing. There it goes. Give it 1.5 turns, and let's see if the carburetor starts leaking gas everywhere. Free up the needle. Well, it's better than before. It was leaking immediately last time. Let's see if you'll hear. I don't feel anything here yet. So either it's float's totally stuck in there and it's not letting gas in, or it's working. Let me go get a screwdriver and whack on it a bit. Alright, as you can see in there, she is just full of gas. It's just filling up and dripping off. Bowl is no longer leaking. However, it appears that the throttle pin is really wallowed out because it's leaking gas out of both sides, but I'm sure that's contributing some amount of vacuum leak to the system, but I don't think it's really enough to matter at this point. This guy down here is still leaking, but only ever so slightly. It's enough I can live with. It's not really leaking enough to get much on here. It's all this gas you're seeing is just dripping right out the bottom of the carb. So I can only assume it's that emulsion tube not sealing, and it's just and just as it sits, it's just bubbling out continuously, and then when I pull it, it's sucking gas out of the bottom of the tube rather than out of the holes. Seems like there's a little more wetness here than before, and I think it is getting through the gasket, though very slowly, which is annoying. So I think the carb's fucked. But I'll pull it off one more time and see if I can get that emulsion tube to seal, and see if I can get it to fire. I think it might be a combination of things. I mean, it should run. It's running slightly better than it did yesterday, but only slightly. It's either gotta be not making compression or not sparking correctly. I don't know. Maybe this needs high octane gas or something. Kind of sounds like it's knocking, but I think that's also just because it's unsupported sitting on concrete. I really don't know. Alright, I don't know what I did, but I just kept pulling on it, and I think I got it warm enough that it's trying to idle now. And I'm going to show it to you, but I think it's knocking. And I think the reason it's not running is because it's getting pre-ignition. And it's just slowing itself down. Which would make sense, I think. Maybe, I don't know. I don't fucking know what I'm doing. So I'm just going to do it, and you can see what I mean. It may just be as simple as I need to go get some 93 octane or a thing of octane booster and dump it in the tank. And that might fix it, maybe? I don't know. Alright, that was a weak one. Let me give it one more. Alright, crank rope on. See what I mean? That thunking to me sounds like it igniting before the pistons reach the top of its travel, and it's just slowing itself down. That's my thought. I could do some Googling. But I'm just going to keep trying at it until I bend a rod.